What are we doing on at this hour? Hi there, welcome. It's Sports Center from the nation's capital. Scott Van Pelt with you on this Sunday evening. Packed show, 3 win-or-go-home games across the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs. We begin with the game that just wrapped up in Cleveland. Both NBA games followed a somewhat similar script as it was win-or-go-home time for Cleveland. Raps still without the thin man, Brandon Ingram, due to a right heel injury. But the Raps come out firing early. Jamal Shed to the youngster, Colin Murray-Boyles. This is a ridiculous alley-oop with the left hand. The Raps up 8, but then Donovan Mitchell puts on the brakes, buries that jumper. Cleveland down a bucket after the first 12. Early second, Toronto up 5. Scotty Barnes is a talented young man on both ends of the floor. Spins and hits. Toronto up 7. It's an 8-point lead. Shed. Float game, no, but the tip is on point. He had 14 in the first half. Toronto up 10. 6-point game, good ball movement. In rhythm, that's James Harden. He hits a 3, they got another, and it's an 11-2 run by the Cavs. They're tied at 49 at the half. These two teams had played 6.5 games. They had scored the exact same number of points, so it comes down to the second half, and that's when Mitchell asserts himself. Hits the 3, then attacks. Scoop with the left hand. Blink of an eye, and Cleveland leads by 9. The lead's now 13. Max Strus. The kick ahead. Jared Allen. Like Nerf. Big man with the Giannis with 1 dribble and 2 strides and gets to the rim. And the lead's 19 after 3. Mitchell down low. And look out! Heading right towards Mike Tirico and Reggie Miller and the folks that paid big money to sit in the front row. Reggie took off the headset to make sure he could get back onto the floor. You've seen one of the talented bigs, Allen. Now you see Evan Mobley get to the rim. And then it's Strus is loose. 3 more. And it's a 12-point margin in the end. Toronto and Cleveland go 7. A lot of respect at the end of it. And you see that Cleveland adds to an impressive run with 5 consecutive Game 7 victories in the playoffs, which began with that historic 2016 Finals triumph over the Warriors. That ties the second longest streak in NBA history, trailing only a 10-game streak by the legendary Celtic dynasty from the late 50s to the late 60s. Kendrick Perkins is here to talk about both games. And Perk, we'll start with Cleveland, obviously, and what they showed you in Game 7. I was talking about the bigs that we saw in Allen and Mobley. How much were they impactful tonight in the reason why Cleveland won?
Well, Scott, they were huge. And you know the narrative around the league about the Cavs is that they're soft. And I think tonight they showed that they got the capability of turning it up a notch, especially on the defensive side of the basketball. Tonight they did a lot of little things, and it's always going to start with the bigs. Jared Allen tonight was a grown-ass man in the paint. He owned the glass. He contested every shot. He had 3 blocks, 2 steals. Offensively, I thought he did an outstanding job of catching and finishing with force, going to the rim, diving with a purpose, running the floor, getting out in transition. If the Cavs are trying to go where we know that they're trying to go, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are going to have to continue to play with this type of force, physicality, and change the narrative about the Cavs being soft. But I got to give a lot of credit too, Scott, to the Toronto Raptors, right? Their future is bright. Scotty Barnes in the next by the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be in that conversation as one of the best two-way guys in the NBA.
Yeah, Amon Shumpert and I were having that conversation. He said, I'll call him a star, not a superstar yet, right? There's levels to this, but Barnes' ability on both ends of the floor, I'm with you. It certainly deserves credit. And Cleveland deserves credit. It's a hard-fought 7-game series. They move on. The concerns you have about Cleveland as they move on, Perk, what are they?
Well, when we look at the New York Knicks, we see that they change, and they now see that Karl Anthony Towns is the most important player on their team to their success. Same with the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid. Cleveland needs to understand that Evan Mobley is the most important player on their team. He has to get going. They have to get him going. Tonight, he did a lot of the little things, and when you look at the box score, it was popular, but they need him to be powerful. He's one of the most skilled bigs in the game today, a guy that is versatile offensively, could take it inside, could play outside, could shoot the tray ball. And I know a lot of people is putting a lot of pressure on James Harden, but the pecking order goes Donovan Mitchell, then Evan Mobley. They need to get Evan Mobley. They need to establish him, and they need to establish him in this series going into Detroit. Otherwise, it's going to be a quick one for them if they don't.
Okay, speaking of Detroit, sit tight. Want to run this highlight as Detroit moves on. I'll get some thoughts on how they did that as Detroit trying to dig out of a 3-1 hole. Orlando went ice cold in the second half at home in Game 6, and now the 1 seed. Well, they weren't going to have to face Orlando at full strength. Franz Wagner, unfortunately, those dreaded calf strains, and we know those can turn into Achilles injuries. He's out, but Paolo Banchero playing like the high draft pick that he was, hitting the bucket there, Magic up. Speaking of number 1 picks, there's Cunningham right back at you. Detroit leads by 3. Let's give this man some love. Tobias Harris, ready for the moment. A pro, a great teammate, a great human. That's what his coach said afterwards. And Harris was doing everything, including losing it on the way up and still burying the bucket. Catch and shoot, all 3 of these. Harris had 17 in the second quarter. Detroit had 40 in the second quarter. The most points in any playoff quarter in 20 years. The lead at the half was 11. Pistons now leading by 13. Cunningham with the cross down the lane. The lead grows to 15. Ensuing possession. Cunningham with the block of Suggs at the cup. And the reach to avoid the contact with the body, so it's clean. And then it's good ball movement. Asar Thompson, Tobias, again catch and shoot 3. And then it's the float game from Cunningham.
On point.
And it's on point. That's royalty in Detroit. Zeke, Isaiah Thomas cheering them on. Early fourth, all Pistons. Cunningham. Danish Jenkins, corner 3. Cunningham for 32, a dozen assists, a couple of blocks, and now it's all Detroit. Here, Orlando trying to hang in. Banchero down the lane. The 22-point game. Defense to offense. Stay in the fight. That's what Steve and I always say, and Banchero does to the tune of 38. 9 and 6. They're able to fight and cut it to 14. But under 4 to go, there's that guy again, Harris. 3 of his 30. Pistons move on by 22. Here's Cade on erasing a 3-1 deficit.
We bond over, being dogs and working through any situation. So, I think being down made us bond over that again and brought us closer, brought us tighter.
We don't take the dog shit lightly. Like, we really feel like we're some dogs. We feel like our back against the wall, the whole world kind of saw, okay, now it's time to go. Now it's time to keep swinging.
I'm extremely proud of this group, the resilience all year long. On the road, being down 22 and a half, willing ourselves back. Just believing.
Where would this team be without Tobias? And, I know we talk a lot about him being a safety blanket, but just how meaningful is it as well? Not just 30 in this game, but 20-yard series at least.
Nobody can say shit to me about Tobias Harris, right? He is dependable, reliable, prepared for the moment. He's a leader. He's a great teammate. He's a great human being. He's a high-level competitor. To show up tonight and do what he did when it was on the line the most. It's exceptional. And, I can come up with more adjectives if you want, but I think you get my drift.
We do, and it's appropriate. Love that. Giving some love to Tobias. Let's go back in time. It's the second time that the Pistons erased a 3-1 deficit in the series, both times against Orlando. In 2003, it was Tracy McGrady that helped push the Magic to a lead of 3-1. But the Pistons won the next 3 all by 15 or more. And then it was Chauncey Big Shot Billups who had 40 in Game 6, 37 in Game 7. Here's Paolo on the Magic, coming up just short in the playoff run.
We got to be better. We got to be better. And it doesn't start in April when the playoffs start. It starts in September, October. You create an environment where losing isn't acceptable. Losing in the first round is not acceptable. It's not good enough. And that should be the attitude.
Is this team good enough? Do you have what you need to be successful at that next level?
I mean, I can't really answer that. I want to say yes, but we haven't been out of the first round. So if you're going off the last 3 years, the answer is no.
No Wagner, but this time of year, health is such a, right? It's such a determinator of who moves on and who doesn't often. Perk, as for this Detroit team, they're the 1 seed. They were not looking the part, down 3-1. They dig out. They move on. What impressed you most about how they did it on Sunday?
Well, once, Scott, they had to find themselves. And, going through a series like this just makes you come together. And the big thing that we recognized was that we were looking at the Detroit Pistons and wondering who was going to be that Robin to Cade Cunningham. We know Cade is going to get his, and all of a sudden we saw the emergence of Tobias Harris come to play over the last 2 games, and they're going to continue to need that from him. He was spectacular in Game 6 on the road, and he was extra special in Game 7 to close them out. And when you think about the Pistons and what they had last year, right? Malik Beasley coming in off the bench, Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., they had a lot of offensive firepower to help Cade. So as they continue to move on throughout the course of this postseason, Tobias Harris is going to have to continue to step up. So is Jenkins. And I think Jalen Duren, he has overcome his little obstacles that he was going through in the first 4 or 5 games of this series, and he's going to be better.
Duren been an all-star this year, that talented front court for Cleveland. Some fun matchups there. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the Eastern Conference, you mentioned the Knicks earlier and saying, look, Karl Anthony Towns needs to be your guy. And Philly goes into Boston. I know Tatum wasn't there, but the Sixers get up off the deck as well, and they move on. What's the first thought you've got in your mind, Perk, about New York and Philadelphia? I see you smiling as you shake your head. I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead.
Hey, Scott, listen, I'm telling you, this right here is going to be a brawl for it all. This is going 7 games, and I cannot wait for this matchup. It's going to come down to the bigs. Joel Embiid had it his way against Boston and obviously exposed Boston because they didn't have no one to stop him. I'm waiting to look at this matchup because Karl Anthony Towns is playing some of the best basketball under Mike Brown at the most important time. You have Mitchell Robinson coming in off the bench that has been spectacular on both ends of the floor. So I'm looking at whoever wins this battle between Towns and Embiid, that's who's going to win this series. I'm looking forward to it. Who's going to get stops? Which one of these guys are going to continue to dominate is going to be the big key. I believe Maxey and Jalen Brunson are going to cancel each other out. But best to believe this is going to be a bar fight.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we got to remind ourselves, and I'm saying this mostly to myself as I raise my hand, let's not overreact to what we see from one game to another, because we know how drastically things can switch, right? I mean, it looked like maybe New York was struggling a little bit. C.J. McCollum making buckets, and Atlanta's got the lead, and then they beat them by damn near 100 points as New York moved on. So we can't overreact in the short term, but I'm saying that mostly to me.
No, I'm saying it to myself too, Scott, because I overreacted a little bit. But I want to say this. When the Knicks went through what they went through in Games 2 and Game 3, Mike Brown put his pride aside and he adjusted his offense and his defense. And what you're seeing from the New York Knicks right now is a little sprinkle of Golden State. And Karl Anthony Towns is being utilized like a Draymond Green point center. That's why we saw him have 2 triple-doubles out of the last 3 games. So shout out to Mike Brown because he's starting to get the best out of this ball club.
Hey, this time of year, it's about adjustments and about the best players bringing out the very best they've got when it is required. I'm telling you this, you've lived through it. You know it better than I do, Perk. Look forward to talking more about the playoffs as they move on, all right?
Right back at you.
My man, Cedric Perkins. Appreciate his time and yours at home. We got more time together as